conversation and to learn. So, question number one is what inspired you to invest in real estate? So, for me, what really inspired me to invest in real estate is to have freedom and options. Like for me, I like to have the option to replace my income with real estate, right? And it's a lot of work, right? It's not easy. A lot of podcasts make it seem very easy. It's a lot of hard work. You have to be dedicated and going through a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of hardships. Things will go wrong, things will blow up in your face despite all the preparation. But what really keeps me going is number one, I love to learn. Like that's just me. Naturally, I love to learn. I'm really big on self improvement, but really, it's just to have freedom and options. Like I want to have the option to retire myself using my passive income from real estate, right? Or if I don't have passive income, I can sell my real estate, take the equity that I had, and then sit that in my bank and then so I don't have to work anymore. So it'd be nice to have the option to, leave my day job to work part time. When I get married eventually to have my, future wife be part time or have my wife be a stay home and just managing the real estate portfolio. So for me, that really just inspired me to invest in real estate. I'm really big on travel as well, and just would love to like, hey, I see a great deal to go to Cabo. Let's go there. Oh, it's a great deal to fly to Japan. Let's go to Japan, and just spend 3 to 4 weeks there without a care in the world, right? So, for me, that's always been my why, and I'll be honest, that was my initial focus. But when I was scaling my apartment complex portfolio, about 80 units in 8 months, I lost sight of that. I ended up buying so much real estate too fast and scaling so fast that I ended up creating a job of real estate that was more stressful than my day job. So it was funny. I was buying real estate to escape my day job, but when I bought too much real estate, I'm now using my day job to escape from real estate because real estate investing is 24/7, right? Day job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But real estate investing and running a real estate business is 24/7, 7 days a week, right? It doesn't care. It always happens, right? So that's something that you have to be cognizant of, but just keep in mind the ultimate vision that, hey, this will give me a life that not many others will have. This will give me options and freedom. Like I want to be able to travel when I'm young and healthy. I want to be able to, spend time with my kids. I remember when I was growing up, my parents could never go to like my field trips because they're too busy working, right? But for me, maybe I have the option to go, on the field trip and be a chaperone for my kids one day and just be involved and just like work what I'm truly passionate on. So for me, I really love to teach, which inspired me to create my YouTube channel, my course, my mentorship, teaching about going into multifamily real estate and just mindset and personal development and personal growth. So that's what really inspired me to invest in real estate. And if you want to invest in real estate, you have to remember your why and constantly remind yourself. Because like I said, it's a long journey. I've been doing this for what is it, 6 years now, and the past year when I scaled the most has been crazy. But I think it'll all be worth it when I'm making $10,000 a month in positive cash flow, net tax free, and at that point, I basically replaced my W-2 income and something happened to me in my job, then I'm not worried. Versus right now, if I were to lose my job, I'd be a little bit worried. So it's really about freedom and options. And you don't need as much money as you think, right? Like for me, I thought I wanted to have a nice mansion and like have a nice car, but I don't care for like that nice mansion, nice car right now. I'd rather value freedom and options. And by all means, if my wealth gets to that point, yeah, and it makes sense. Yeah, I will buy a nicer car. I will buy a nicer house, right? But right now, I'm willing to give that up to have the freedom to travel, the freedom to do what I am truly passionate about, the freedom to just like relax, right? So, some days you wake up from work and then you have to drag yourself to work, but it'd be nice where I just wake up, like, I don't feel like doing anything today, and I do nothing, right? That's amazing. That's the reason why I'm investing in real estate and building passive income and putting myself through torture and stress, right? So question number two is what are your experiences? So, for me, I had no experience in real estate. Like my family didn't like real estate. Like at most, my parents just owned their single family home. That's all I knew, right? I remember growing up, my parents always owned a house. And, on top of owning that house, they had a townhouse that they used to live in as well. And they traded up to the house that I was living in when I was born. And instead of selling it, they just rented it out as a rental. And I just remember my dad would go over there and I'd stand outside and play. And he'd go in and like fix something in the house or like see an issue or move in a new tenant. So that's as most as I'd seen. And I think my dad had some pretty negative experiences with real estate, so he never really pushed me to do it. Um, and eventually, when we moved up to another house, so we sold the house that I was living in, and then we traded up to a bigger house. So, the most I saw was like, we had a house that we were living in, and then they had one more house that they used to live in that we rented out. So that's kind of all I've really saw. They didn't have much real estate, and even like my friends and nearby family, like at most, their parents would just own a house, and maybe they would have one rental property that was their prior house that they had. So that was the most I had. My aunt was a loan officer, but she never really talked much about real estate to me. Um, I thought that was a realtor. I wasn't really close with her, but like, I didn't really know much about real estate, right? Like I was just told that like you buy a house for yourself to live in, and you live in there for 30 years, you pay it off, and then now you own it free and clear, and that's the American dream. So that's all I thought, right? So that's all I knew. So I didn't have any experience, right? Like I literally didn't know anything about like house hacking or putting 10% down on a loan. I was told that I had to be 20% down. I didn't know about like seller repair credit and credit financing and buying apartment complexes. Like if you told me like 7 years ago I'd own all this real estate and apartment complex, mobile home park, I'd be like, you're crazy, and I must be super rich. But that's not necessarily the case. So for me, I learned as I went. I self-educated myself with podcasts, YouTube. I joined a mentorship to learn myself. But all the information's out there, right? But for me, the most beneficial is to learn from somebody who's doing it and who's in the weeds and the trenches and can give you that guidance, right? That's why I'm passionate about coaching and mentorship and creating a course so others can learn as well, right? And then the next one is, how many properties do you currently own? So I currently own around like 90 units. Depends on my mobile home park, but in the process of selling that right now. So once I sell it, I'll probably have around like a little over 50 units. I have about like 40 units in my mobile home park, about 46 units between two apartment complexes, and like about 4 to 5 single family homes that I own. So, that kind of brings me around to like 90-ish units. And once I sell it, then I'll be down to 50. So it's crazy. Like I started buying in California. Everything's like $1 million here, and then I bought both my apartment complexes. My first one was 500,000. My second one was 350K, which is like the price of a condo or a townhouse in California. So that's how I kind of hacked it a little bit, right? I moved to a cheaper market that was more cash flow focused, versus California, which is more appreciation focused. So about 90 units right now. Number four is, what is your investment strategy? So my investment strategy is buy and hold ideally, right? So what my goal is, I know real estate long term you cannot lose. You just have to survive and weather the storm, right? Like you have to, in order to survive and weather the storm, you have to have a good cash reserve. And for me, I bought my first single family home in 2017, my second one in 2019, my third one in 2019, my fourth one in 2020, my fifth one in 2021, my first apartment in 2021, mobile home park in 2021, and then my second apartment complex in 2022. Right. So for me, I'm definitely a buy and hold, because I just see you build wealth by owning real estate long term. You have tenants paying down your debt. You have appreciation, right? Like in California, I had so much appreciation amongst my single family homes that I was able to pull out, do cash out refinance, and get HELOCs on my single family homes in California, pull out $1 million and buy my two apartment complexes and my mobile home park in cheaper areas, right? So because of that, it helped me leverage. Yes, it did cut down my cash flow in my California real estate portfolio, right? Like collectively in my California real estate portfolio, I'm probably negative $3,000 a month, right? Because I took out so much equity when interest rates are low. But if I'm making $10,000 from my apartment complex, my mobile home park, right, then overall I'm net $7,000 positive, right? But don't get me wrong, like I'm taking negative 3,000 here, and it takes a while. Like it took me like 2 years to make my real estate, positive cash flow. So that's why I'm in the process of, I said I wanted to be buy and hold, but it made sense for me to sell my mobile home park because, number one, I'm bleeding money on that every month. Number two, I don't have enough money to continue the value add plan. And then number three is the property management isn't that great. So I just thought, you know what? I'd rather have 50 units, and then once I sell it, I'm gonna get my reserves back, right? Like I'll get all, I kind of broke even, losing a little money, but I get all of the money I put in the deal and have it as reserves so that it can sustain my apartments and my single family home portfolio, right? and then pay down some of my other debts as well. Versus like owning 90 units and I've no reserve, and if something were to happen, I get wiped out. So the key of real estate is to survive as long as in the game. So there might come a point where like, yeah, I want to buy and hold, and for me, I like to like buy my apartment. I bought it, renovate it, increase the rents, and ideally do a cash out refinance. Pull it's a big burr, right? Do pull out my down payment, pull out my renovation cost, pull out some money on top, tax free, then use it to buy another piece of real estate, right? That's how you kind of leverage the money that you have to buy more and more and more, right? So that's my strategy. But sometimes you have to evaluate that. Like, does this make sense to own? And for me, the mobile park didn't make sense, right? I'm better at apartments than at mobile parks. I'm putting all my time, energy, and money to this. Let's just get rid of that. Stabilize my apartment complex. Once the apartments are stabilized, I can use that money to buy another apartment complex in Oklahoma, which I'm really good at, right? And that's what I'm thinking too. Like, some of my single family homes in California, I'm self managing it, have a lot of equity in some single family homes, like up to $600,000. Maybe I can sell it, do a 1031 exchange, and buy an apartment complex in Oklahoma, right? It's like a little piggy bank that you crack, and then you can use the equity to buy an apartment complex, right? And that can juice up your cash flows. Because right now, one of my single family homes, it has $600,000 equity in it, and I'm only renting it out for $4,000 a month, right? But if I take that $600,000 and let's just say I buy a $1.5 million apartment complex, that's 30 units, right? You know, 30 units, and then each unit is pumping out $600 per unit. So at that point, it's $18,000, right? So I went from $4,000 in monthly income and has $600,000 equity that's trapped there and stagnant, and I can 1031 exchange it into a $1.5 million apartment complex. Um, that's 30 units, and I'm getting $18,000 a month gross, right? So that's how you trade up, right? So you can trade the equity. So it might make sense for me to like sell some of my single family homes and trade up to apartment complex, or I can convert some of my single family homes, when I have more time, into like a midterm rental or short term rental and juice up those cash flows, right? So you always have to constantly reevaluate and see what's the best for you at a certain time, right? So, or I could 1031 exchange, um, my $160,000 equity, take the equity and buy like 10 Alabama new build single family homes at $60,000 each, right? And leverage there. Number five is, what's are your long term goals? So my long term goal for real estate is to own real estate for the rest of my life, right? I want to slowly accumulate real estate. Right now I don't want to syndicate, but maybe if I leave my day job and that's something I want to do, I'll syndicate, right? But right now it just doesn't make sense. Like I feel like I can own a decent real estate portfolio without much time, without much effort, and just organically and slowly scale it. Like I own my 26 unit and I did a value add plan and I bought it for 800,000. I'm all in for $800,000 including renovation and purchase price, and it's worth 1.6 million. You do a cash out refinance, pull all your money out, right? And then you still own that 26 unit, and then you go buy like a 50 unit, and now you just you know went from 26 unit, now you have a 50 unit, right? And then same thing in my 20 unit, do cash out refinance again, pull my money out, and go buy another 20 or 30 unit. So for me, it's just naturally and organically scale my real estate portfolio about partners. I just want to own the real estate myself so that I have full control over this. And like I said, I don't want to be like 100 millionaire. I don't need to be a billionaire, right? Like if I just have a comfortable life, and I may get there, who knows? Like I may get close to like maybe 50 million towards the end of my life, or maybe 100 million, who knows, but definitely 50 million is achievable. But like, that's more than enough money, right? Like at that point, you have all your basic needs met. Even right now, like I have all my basic needs met. Like anything more, like if I really wanted to continue doing it, I would do it. But maybe my strategy might change, right? But for me, the goal is to stay in for the rest of my life. And if you can invest in real estate for like 30, 40, I started investing at 27, right? If I can do it for 40 years, I'll be 67, which is my dad's age. Like if I do it for 40 years, no way. I'd probably be very successful in real estate, right? Like even if I don't like raise money or like invest in others, like I'd be very successful in real estate, right? Anything that you do. So for me, if you invest in real estate, you're committing to do it for the rest of your life. I mean, there are situations where maybe you get started in real estate and you realize it's not for you, in which case it's fine, right? Real estate's not for everybody. But most people want to at least own their own house that they live in, and that's a great way to build equity. You can trade up the house to live in a bigger house, right? That's what people do too. I know a lot of people do that just for themselves and their family. They just buy one house, and then you want to buy a bigger house, you sell it and trade up to the bigger house, and you get the tax. benefits of that. Number six, what are your short-term goals? So right now, I scaled massively in 2021 and 2022. And so what I've been doing in 2023 and is, because I basically used up all my capital to buy those, two apartment complexes in mobile home park. So, and I'm, renovating a lot of the units right now. Like I've renovated at least, 40, 50 units over the past like 1 to 2 years. So for me, it's just really about stabilizing my apartment complexes and then selling my mobile home park. So, hopefully I'll sell my mobile home park, end of September, fingers crossed. If everything goes smooth, that's when I'll close it. And then, honestly, at this point, my 26 unit, only two units are vacant right now. Everything else has been renovated for the most part, or they're leased out to tenants, but I have one more unit in my 26 that needs to be renovated, like a full renovation. So it should take me about maybe a month to finish that. And then I have one unit that's like, rent ready right now. It's a studio. And then my 20 unit, honestly, like whatever is remaining, 18 out of 20 are occupied. I have two left. One um, is rent ready. The other one just needs, paint and touch up here and there, and they'll be rent ready as well. So, I mean, honestly, what I want to do is I want to let those cash flow. I'm probably grossing around close to probably um, 26K, I'd say on that. 26K. Grossing around 26K on that. So, if you kind of assume that, 16K goes to like expense and like CapEx and reserves, then, I have about 10K a month in cash flow. And that should replace my income. Because, like, what's crazy, like, in just like, I think 6 weeks, we rented out like 6 units at like $700 each, right? So that's $4,200 in cash flows. I went from 1,200 to like 1,600, and then my 20 units getting around 9,000 right now. So that's about 25K, and so maybe like 15K goes to expense, and at that point, in reserve, cash flowing 10K. At that point, I want to use that 10K to pay down my line of credit that I used. Um, to buy some of my real estate, I had to leverage a little more than I would like. I dipped into my emergency, um, line of credit. So, when I sell my mobile home park, I'm gonna take the money that I get, from the down payment to pay off one line of credit, and then I am doing a seller carry second on that note, $450,000, which is gonna pay me about $2,200 a month, so that covers my rent. But that's gonna be trapped there for um, at least 3 years or less, depending on when they do the cash out. The next owner does a cash out refinance, but my apartments should be cash flowing 10K a month. If I include that second loan position, it's about 12K a month, right? And I line of credit that's 100. So it's gonna take me about maybe 8 months. I just take all my cash flow and then dump it into my line of credit. So let's just call it a year. And then at that point, I want to use that money to save for a down payment. And keep in mind, I'm still working as well, so I can save my own money as well. Save up another like $100,000 so I can buy a house with me and my girlfriend. And then yeah, at that point, save up money again, to maybe buy another apartment complex, right? Or if interest rates drop back down to like 4 to 5%, and right now they're like 8%, and maybe I'll do a cash out refinance on my 26 unit, right? But what the bank wants to see is they want to see that higher incomes. I just hit that income of like 16K, and if I rent out the last two units, I'll be at 17K or 18K. So they want to see a good like 6 months, at 6 to 12 months of stabilized income at that higher rent. And at that point, I'm going to show the 16K a month in rent, and then I'm going to show that my expenses are low, right? So that when I do a cash out refinance, I can get the maximum value, pull up more money, and buy more real estate. If interest rate drop, if interest rates are still high, I locked in my 4% interest rate for like 10 years, so it's still 8 more years from now. So I can sit and wait, right? And there's nothing wrong. I take that 10K a month. I could save up money for another apartment. I can actually pay down one of my apartments, if I want to do that, or I have the option just to leave. So for me, it's just stabilizing, and then I have some whole life insurance that I want to pay off as well. So what's nice about whole life insurance is, and I'll make a video on this, but pretty much what you want to do is when you buy whole life insurance, you have about a 5 to 7 year period, depending on which policy you get, to max fund the life insurance. So let's just say you have $100,000 that you can max fund this life insurance policy on, and it's based on like how much your death benefit is. So the higher the death benefit, the more money you can max fund it. And then let's just say your max funding amount. So for me, I got 1.5 million. and the max I can put in there is around $200,000, right, over a 5 year period. So that's about $40,000 a year, right? So, before I owned all this real estate, I was max funding this. So I was putting about $40,000 a year. So that was roughly around like, 3,500 bucks a month, right? But then once I started buying real estate, I was allocating all my money towards renovation, down payment, covering expenses. So I had to kind of stop max funding my life insurance. But what's nice is like you can always catch up. So like right now my life insurance policy, I got my statement saying that hey, you can put in another $40,000 for this year. So once I start cash flowing from my apartments, I can take that $10,000 a month and just dump it into my life insurance policy. And then once it's max funded, then I'm done, right? So I want to like pay off all my obligations, right? I want to pay off my max funded life insurance. I want to pay off my line of credit. I want to save up for my down payment, get a house, and then once that's all taken care of, at that point I could save up, make sure I have a decent reserve of at least $200,000. And once I hit that, then I could consider, all right, like, do I want to cash out refinance, buy my real estate, or do I want to stay put? So this is my period of stabilization. So I may not be able to buy real estate in a while, because if you think about it right now, it takes me a year to pay off my $100,000 line of credit. It's gonna take me a year to save $100,000 for my house. It's gonna take me a year to pay off my life insurance. So that's at least 3 years, right? And at that point, once it's all paid off, I'll get my equity back from my mobile home park where I'm doing a sell and carry second. The buyer, the owner will pay me back, and then I can scale real estate again. So I might be pausing for 3 years and then scaling up again, which is nothing wrong, right? Like it's a long term game, and honestly, like if even 3 years from now, I'd be investing in real estate for like 9 years, and to buy 50 units in 9 years, that's insane. And to build a cash flow machine that's paying me $10,000 a month net that replace my income, it's crazy, right? To do that in like a 10-year period, anyone will take that any day, right? So number seven is what type of real estate do you invest in? So for me, I do single family homes in California. It's more appreciation versus cash flow. So California has crazy appreciation, right? I invest in an apartment complex in Oklahoma. It's cheaper. It's more focused on cash flow, and I do value add real apartment C-class apartment complex in Oklahoma. And then I have a mobile home park in Alabama, which I'm in the process of selling. To be honest, after this experience, I may not invest in mobile home parks again, at least right now. Because right now it's just so much easier for me to do apartment complexes. So number eight is what are your criteria for successful investment? So what I teach my students, what I preach on my course, and what I preach on YouTube is you want to buy value add real estate, or you can buy it with instant equity day one, right? So you're coming in this with a win, right? Like I bought my 26 unit for 500,000, it appraised at 750K. So I'm already coming in with 250K profit or 50K profit, whatever that is. And then I have the ability to double the rents. If I double the rent, I double the value, right? So you want two ways to win. If you can consistently do this, right? This is how the BRRRR strategy works. You want to buy it right with instant equity day one, have the ability to force appreciation using a value add plan, which can raise rents, raise income, decrease expense, increase value, do cash out refinance, pull out your money, and you repeat the process, right? Like if you think about it, if it takes me 3 years on average to stabilize my apartment complexes with doing renovation and getting a new tenant base, think about it. So my 26 unit took me about let's say, 3 years to stabilize that. I do a cash out refinance, I'll pull out my down payment, my renovation cost, which is going to be about almost like, $300,000 plus another, like, let's say I pull out another like $200,000 on top of that. It's $500,000 tax free, or about, yeah, 500,000 tax free. I take that 500,000, I could use that to buy like a $1.3 million apartment complex where I'm putting 25% down and have some money for renovation, right? So that's what I mean. And then you buy that one, and then you take 3 years to stabilize that, and you're still owning your 26 unit originally, and that one, as your rents raise up as well, the value is raising up as well. And this one's stabilized, and then once you stabilize, you can cash out refinance both of them, right? You can put the 26 unit you bought and then the one you own and the new one you bought into one loan to make it less risky for the lender, do a cash out refinance, pull out money from both, and then go buy another apartment complex in 3 years, right? So imagine I went from like a 26 unit, did a cash out refinance, I bought a 50 unit, and then at that point I cash out refinance both my 26 unit and my 50 unit, and I buy a 100 unit. So literally that's every 3 years, right? So now I went from 25 units to I bought 50, so I have 75, then I have 175. Like, I mean, how much real estate do you need, right? Like, how much real estate do you really need to do that? So if you can consistently buy an equity day one, value add plan, and do cash out refinance, and you do that over 40 years, you can't lose. You can't lose in real estate, right? Like, I can't lose. Like, even though I'm selling my mobile park at a loss right now, but I can still invest in real estate for another 40 years. I'm not going to lose, right? Um, do you have experience with properties? So I kind of mentioned that as well. I've experience in house hacking with single family homes in California, with buying new builds in Alabama, mobile home parks in the southeast, and apartment complexes. So that's kind of my experience. And then number 10 is, how do you find properties to invest in? So for me, I'm really big on direct mail, to the point where that's where I teach a lot of my students, and I actually provide a direct mail service where all you do is you pay up front, and then I will do your letters for 6 or 12 months, depending on which plan you bought, right? So I have a unique program offering where I do coaching and course mentorship combined with, I'll do the letters for you if you pay for that premium service, right? Because a lot of people are really busy, right? You have a lot of obligations. You have a job, you're taking care of a kid, you're taking care of elderly parents, you might have a stay-home wife, or you have multiple obligations and you're too busy. And where people fail, or where students fail, is they're not sending out letters consistently. So if you pay me, I'll do it for you, I'll automate it for you, and basically pretty much every month that I'm gonna send letters for you, and all you have to do is pick up the phone and answer, right? So that's kind of a service that I'm offering. But for me, I love direct mail because I go direct to the owner. You bypass the broker, because brokers never have good deals. Brokers will inflate the price to increase their commissions. Brokers don't know how to do performance. So for me, I like to go straight to the seller. You can negotiate creative financing, and you can get more connections by doing this, right? When you have a broker in the way, it's like playing telephone. I tell my broker something, the broker tells their broker something, the broker tells them something, and there's no relationship built, right? Whereas if I can talk directly to the seller, I can build a relationship with the seller, and that's how you get creative financing. That's how they refer you to other investors. That's how they give you connections to their contractors, to their insurance agents, to their property management, right? So this is how you build a relationship. You build a network of actual investors and owners in that area. So for me, I'm very big on direct mail, and that's how I bought my two apartment complexes. Right, literally in a 6 month span, I sent out 1,800 letters, 300 a month, and I got my 26 unit, which made me 250K equity day one, and I'm able to double the rents, double the value. On my 20 unit, I bought with $300,000 or 50K of equity day one, and I was able to renovate it. The value didn't double, unfortunately, because interest rates went up, so cap rates went up and my value went down. But hey, when interest rates go down, cap rates go down, my value go up. I do know I cash out refinance, right? So this is how I buy real estate that's instant equity day one, but also have the ability to raise the rents and raise the value and stabilize it, right? So that's why I'm really big on direct mail. So if you're interested in like doing direct mail or my coaching program or my mentorship, please check the description down below. There's a link. You can go there. You can schedule some one-on-one coaching. You can check out my course, which has 120 modules. You can sign up for my direct mail automation program. So whatever value I can give to you, I'm happy to. So hopefully these 10 questions um, help give you value and you learn something. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.